We're 2 months into the NHL's regular season. Should the Utah Hockey Club stay the course, or should they start looking at changes? Plus, Four Nations rosters are coming out, and Robin and I are going to give you our early thoughts for Team MVP. Stay tuned. The Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast comes your way right now.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for joining us on the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm former NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by longtime team analyst Robin Leaño. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day when it comes to the UHC. We love talking hockey, specifically about the Utah Hockey Club. Some pretty cool topics on today's show, talking about whether or not we think there should be some changes, maybe some early team MVPs, and of course, Four Nations. We'll talk about the tournament. If you're unfamiliar with this, it is brand new. There's a reason for that. We'll get into all that with you. And we'll talk about whether or not any Utah Hockey Clubbers might end up on that roster. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Robin, to get started here, the question is simple. The answer is complex. Should the Utah Hockey Club stay the course that they are on, given the injuries, the inconsistencies, the just everything that's gone on, call-ups, just everything, players who have developed, players who have not developed, guys taking a step forward, guys taking a step back? What do you think?
You're right. It is definitely have a very complicated answer to this one, because I think if you take into consideration the and I guess I will say there were a lot of people who were a lot higher on the UHC going into this season. But there were also the realists who kind of said, all right, this team, like you kind of said, this team needs to overachieve to make what they need to get to. This team needs to, do X, Y, and Z. And they didn't do that. They got the injuries. It's still a rebuilding team. And I feel like if you try to pull a trigger on making significant changes, this can only harm the team in the long run. I feel like it's a panic move. I don't think that's what's necessary to do. But I do think there's maybe some small pieces here and there you might be able to work with, because that's honestly, I feel like you have to do something right now just to, quote, right the ship, make it look, instead of making it look like it's a sinking ship right now, at least get them slightly back on course. But the last thing you want to do is to sell any guys who you want to be part of this future.
So it's interesting you use the phrase panic move, because there are some teams that are drifting into a panicky sort of area. The water's getting a little deep, a little early for some of those teams. Robin, one of the surprise teams that finds itself in the deep end of the pool early is the Nashville Predators. They have said they are open for business. They are looking to move whatever and whenever, probably with the exception of a couple of guys like a Forsberg or a UC Saros. And Nashville can't figure it out. And here's why I'm going to say this is a prime opportunity for Utah Hockey Club, because I think Bill Armstrong is savvy enough not to hit the panic button, but to take advantage of other teams freaking out right now, because the UHC has valuable pieces. Want to shore up your defense? We've got a Bortuzzo. We've got a Cole. I don't see them sending out a guy that just acquired him, Mata. I think they need him, and I think they're going to keep him. There's some untouchables there. I mean, obviously Sergachev's not going anywhere, but somebody calls about a Kesselring as a depth defenseman, or somebody calls about, a Valley Mackey. I think you're listening to those. I also think with the forwards, there's a lot of young talent there And certain players, again, are not in the discussion. However, would it be untoward to talk about maybe someone in the top six moving? I don't necessarily think it is. And I think that if you get the right return for that on a team that's panicking and says, we have, for instance, if Nashville decides it does have too much of a good thing, has too much offense, not enough defense, they're looking to bring in a defenseman. Could you, as the Utah Hockey Club, take advantage of that and pick a scorer off of that team? And so I think if I'm Utah, I am looking to make moves right now. I am looking to see what's out there and how I can better this team because I think the opportunities exist. There are teams that are starting to panic.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and and to me, and I think it goes kind of to some of the bit of what I was saying, right? When you take a look at what the expectations were, the expectation for Nashville is that they are in quote win now mode, that they want to win a Stanley Cup, within a very very short time frame here, and at the beginning of this season shows they're not on track for that, and I think that's why they're in that win now mode. Take a look at the inverse. You look at where the Utah Hockey Club is. I mentioned they're just coming out of a rebuild. They're still technically in the rebuild. The rebuild it's a years long process, and it's and they're still kind of like in the I don't want to say early stages anymore, but they're still they're still mid rebuild. They're still there having to figuring things out for them. We talked about the expectations for them, but by and large, for the most part, many people didn't think this team was going to make the playoffs. They'd be like maybe on the outside looking in, but I feel like that is what's helping Utah, being a lot more patient, and as you mentioned, taking advantage of those that are panicking, that are in win now mode, and are just not looking good, and want to find by any means necessary a way to get back on course.
So you've got Nashville, I think, is in panic mode. The
Yes.
Blues, I don't want to say they're in panic mode, but they're worried. But potential to panic, Colorado Avalanche, Seattle Kraken, Edmonton Oilers, Vancouver Canucks, all of them potential to panic. If Calgary starts to believe it is a playoff contender, which they weren't supposed to be this year, remember, and then they start to fall out a little bit and freak out about that, they could panic. And that's just in the West. Let's look at the East. Who could be panicking right now? Detroit, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Boston for sure is panicking. The Islanders on the outside as we are taping this show. The Buffalo Sabres are in the last wild card spot. What? When did that happen? Yeah, Buffalo snuck in there. So all those teams below them could easily be in panic mode. There's always pressure on Montreal. And the fact that they're a bottom dweller right now is not sitting well in the Belle Provence. It's just there's a lot of pressure on teams right now. And there's only one cup, as Brian Burke will tell you. There's only one cup, Rob, and they can only give it to one team, but everybody thinks every year is their year.
And it's and you're right. And I feel like that's kind of it's all that, as you mentioned, is the very reason why Utah should it's a complicated, again, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's a complicated answer because you're not going to have them completely shift gears on their entire plan here, but if they can figure out a way to bring in talent and do it smartly.
All right, well, let me phrase it to you like this then. So a trade is proposed to you. I'm not going to name names, but let's just say a trade is proposed to you and it's even money, meaning you think you improve a little bit, the other team might improve a little bit, or maybe you stay where you are, but you mix up the personalities and the other team is going to mix up the personalities. Do you make that kind of move right now? Do you feel you need to mix it up a little, change things? Is the overall chemistry not there? Do you not quite like what you're seeing right now to the point where you think it could be that maybe it's a chemistry driven thing? Would you make an even money trade, or do you have to come out ahead?
I think it depends on the level of where where we're meeting for the even money. If it's like a depth, of course, if you're looking at depth pieces, lower end, I'm like, yeah, I can easily see something move on that way. But I mean, I'm a little, what's the term I'm looking for? I am a little greedy. I do like to see if a team come out with a win, and that includes on the trade market. And Bill Armstrong's been great about this, so I probably wouldn't be surprised if I see this again from him going into this, where he tries to he twists the arm of another GM or tricks them in some way to throw in just that slight bit extra. It doesn't seem all that much to them on the other side, but for Utah, going in for Utah, it makes all the difference in the world.
All right. Fair enough. That's a good place to set it there. So what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments. If I make you GM for a day of Utah Hockey Club, what would you do? Would you make a move? Would you be looking to take advantage of somebody else? Do you want to keep this team together and just see if it gels? Let us know. So fire away, and now you can always reach us on social media as well. Four Nations rosters are coming out. If you're listening to this on a Wednesday, today is the day. Four Nations rosters are drawing a lot of attention. Robin and I are going to talk about potential for Utah Hockey Club names to land on one of those Four Nations in just a moment. And today's show brought to you in part by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action right now with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Robin, Four Nations. I think the best way to go about it is let's talk about the tournament itself,
Yes.
what it is, to educate some fans, and then we can get into the potential for the Utah Hockey Club to place some names on those rosters.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it is important too, because like some people might be wondering, hey, what is this? I've never heard of this before. Even if you have been a long time NHL or an NHL fan, maybe you just did the first time, you're still hearing about it because it is new, completely new. They just announced that this is going to be a tournament between four nations, four countries, that's acting in place of what the All-Star weekend was, and kind of was put in place as an agreement, partially of what would end up allowing NHL players to go to the Olympics in the next Winter Olympics.
Yes, and honestly, let's just call a spade here. The All-Star game's kind of gotten stale.
Yes, it has been. I mean, I like. Yeah, I
the
love
3-on-3 livened it up. I'll give it that.
Yeah, the skills competition. It was all. I mean, it's fun to watch, but it's all the same thing every single time. It's, unless there's like another record breaker or whatever. It's all the same stuff. I do like the festivities outside of it. So if you're a fan, you take advantage of those opportunities to go to the fan fest, take a picture of all the trophies, meet some of your favorite players, do a lot of other things around there. It's a fun time. So, like, don't get me wrong, it's a great time if your city's hosting it. But I can say that with personal experience. But But yeah, you're right. Overall, the weekend of All-Star weekend has gotten stale. So I'm glad they have this going in place of it.
So it's going to be a mini round robin tournament. Mm-hmm. And the four nations involved are the United States, Canada, Sweden, and Finland. Now, each roster already had back in the summer 6 players named to each team. And I'm real quick just going to give you the ones that have already been named. So for Team Sweden, Forsberg from the Preds, Willie Nylander from the Maple Leafs, Mika Zibanejad from the Rangers, Gustav Forsling of the Florida Panthers, Victor Hedman from Tampa, and Erik Karlsson from Pittsburgh. Already named for Team Finland: Sebastian Aho from Carolina, Alexander Barkov from Florida, Mikko Rantanen from Colorado, Miro Heiskanen from Dallas, Asa Lindell from Dallas, and Jussi Saros from the Preds. Team Canada has Sidney Crosby from Pittsburgh, Connor McDavid from Edmonton, Nathan McKinnon, Colorado, Brad Marchand, Boston, Braden Point, Tampa, and Cale Makar, Colorado. And then Team USA, Austin Matthews, Toronto, Jack Eichel, Vegas Golden Knights, Matthew Tkachuk from Florida, Adam Fox, Rangers, Charlie McAvoy of the Bruins, and Quinn Hughes of the Vancouver Canucks. So now this is kind of some interesting who might be there, who might not be there, but on a roster that is laced with Canadians and Americans for the Utah Hockey Club, Robin, but a Finnish name that I wouldn't be afraid to throw in the hat. It could get interesting. Maybe we could see a few UHC names on that roster.
We could very well see it. It's what's interesting to me is like I feel like if we had been asked this question, 2 months ago before the first games, I would have been like, ooh, maybe maybe a guy like Matthias Maccelli is going to get us, going to get an opportunity. Maybe Clayton Keller or Logan Cooley is going to see some time with Team USA. But with the team kind of struggling, it's to me it really is hard to gauge a estimate. But I mean, just the three players I mentioned, I think you can make an argument for them already.
I think Maccelli absolutely merits a Team Finland nod, or at least a look. I'm not going to say a nod, but a look. I don't know that he gets selected to the team, but he definitely is in the Team Finland consideration and should be. So I like that. That you point that out. I know that you're a big Matthias Maccelli fan, so I know you're going to throw him out there anyway. But I like that.
Yeah.
Also for Utah, though, I think they have a pretty good shot with Clayton Keller. I feel like he's probably going to be on Team USA at the end of the day. But what about, let me throw this name out at you. What about Logan Cooley? Has he done enough to impress you? Do you think he gets a look for Team USA?
I think in the same sense that Maccelli gets a look for Finland. I mean, maybe not necessarily, the nod in the actual, spot on the roster, but he certainly gets some heavy consideration. Logan Cooley has been, done a lot for this team already, and he's proven that he belongs in the National Hockey League, that he belongs at the highest level, and that's despite being only his second year in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely. And of course, Kevin Stenlund could get a look for Team Sweden. I don't know. I think Sweden's too packed. I don't know that they really take enough of a look at him. Also Russia is not participating in this. They were not one of the four nations chosen. They're still banned in international competitions. So this counts as an international competition. Let me throw a couple more names at you, Robin. Go ahead.
I mean, it is not. Maybe you can see them in the future because it is not IIHF sanctioned, though, correct?
Right. It's not. This is an NHL tournament, but
so if they could have decided if they wanted to, but it's.
Yeah, but I think it would have ruffled a lot of political feathers.
Yes, it is a complicated thing right now, but yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to put that out there as a thought, but go ahead and continue.
So the two names I wanted to throw at you, just Dylan Guenther, based on his hot start. I know he's cooled off, but a guy who has then started to heat up, Jack McBain. They would both have to somehow crack Team Canada. I know that's a tall ask.
That is a tall order.
But do you think they get a look? Any consideration?
I'm going to put it so. Even though, I think one more than the other, and I'm going to say it this way, is even though he's cooled down, Dylan Guenther has still proven that he's got an amazing stick. He can he has got the smart vision to take shots from the right spot, and a decent amount of time, decent chance that it could go in. I think especially if he's on a super packed roster like Team Canada. So like I certainly would think he gets at least a look. And I don't know if it's going to be enough to get in because as we kind of made that little preface for it, this is Team Canada is going to be an incredibly tough roster because, well, I mean, they almost always are in any international game.
Yeah, their forward crop is stacked, absolutely stacked. So I mean, it looks fantastic. I'll tell you what they have to figure out is goalie. Canada, who's going to be the goaltenders? That's going to be interesting because so many players could have played their way in and or out of Team Canada at various points, and you still don't know. Like you could just go with Stanley Cups and pick Aiden Hill and Jordan Binnington, and you still don't have a guarantee that they're both going to play well. It's kind of a crapshoot for Canada. It's really interesting. It's going to be an interesting tournament. So depending on when you're hearing this, rosters come out Wednesday. So I'm sure you're probably listening to this. It drops on Wednesday. But just they may or may not be out by the time you get around to listening to us.
Yeah, there's a pretty decent chance that by the time you're listening to this that it's not out yet, but there's also a really good chance that it already is out. If you're looking for the full reaction, we'll have all that later on, coming out later this week.
Absolutely, looking forward to that, and that'll be a lot of fun. Well, and so another topic we're going to get to here. By the way, if you, again, always you're free to drop something in the comments. Let us know how you think about these topics, and if you think anybody on Utah does deserve to be on a Four Nations roster, you can state your case right there, or of course you can always reach out to us over on the socials as well.
Tell us too if we miss somebody that you think
sure
absolutely get a look. Again,
how is Jackson Stauber not on Team Canada? He's perfect this year. No one scored on the guy. How do you leave him off?
Well, but yeah, absolutely let us know if you feel like we've missed somebody, or quotes overlooking anybody. But we'll respond.
Yes,
we certainly will.
Absolutely. So, all right, Robin, team MVPs. We'll get your thoughts right after this.
And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Once again, you can now win as much as up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the best place to get real money in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and of course, that doesn't also include Utah. Sign up today and get a $50 bonus instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Check it out yourself, guys. I've been using it for the last couple months or so. Got a couple of lineup wins out there, and those wins do feel really good when one of my lineups does go. I've been able to take advantage of their flex play where I necessarily don't get it perfect, but I still get, let's say 4 out of my 6 or 5 out of my 6, still win something, not the full amount, but I still win something out of it. And it makes me feel good that at least it shows that it knows how close I got, especially on those harder lineups that you put in. But go ahead and check it out yourself. Download the app, use the code LOCKEDONNHL, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. So now let's go ahead and get to that team MVP talk. Tom, as you go ahead and tee it all up for that, who are some early potentials?
Well, I am so glad you asked. You know what? It's not even so much for me, it's the potentials. It's man, there are just some clear candidates of players who I think have played better to this point of the year.
Yep.
And I'm going to start in net. If anyone's surprised by this, leave now. But I'm going to start with Veg Melka. I think that Veg has carried Utah through a difficult time, doesn't have the luxury of having a Connor Ingram to platoon with right now, and has had to become the 1A. And for the most part, has lived up to it. Have there been a couple softies in there? Yes. Have there been a couple he probably went back? Sure. Any goalie has those over the course of a long season. But by and large, especially due to the nature of Utah's defense, how fast they give pucks up, turnovers that result to odd man rushes and chances in transition and off the rush, I think he's doing a stellar job. And I really think that he is one of the guys that we need to talk about right now as far as starting there. So I'll tell you what, I'll start. I'll give one, you give one, and we'll go back and forth for a couple of players here.
Oh, okay. We're gonna do it that way. All right.
Unless you want to respond to my.
I like the pick, right? I mean, I like that pick. I think, especially given the situation we talked about the goalie situation going into the season and how there were expectations for Connor Ingram as trying to solidify himself as the 1A, and Veg Melka has a huge season ahead of himself. Ingram has been below expectations, at least on my perspective, and Veg Melka has stepped up. So I feel like that's a huge bit. Again, is he perfect? No, I think don't think you have to put into considerations of what he's been given, the hand he's been dealt. But I think he's been fine. He's been doing as the best he can given those circumstances. So honestly, yeah, I think that is certainly a great pick to start off from.
Okay, so give me your lead in that role. Who's your early MVP?
I mean, I think it goes, I think without a surprise, and I think one of the easiest, it is a cheating answer, so to speak, in saying someone like Clayton Keller, because Keller taking his first year as captain, and some players, even though like they've had leadership roles in the past, they've won an A. When you wear a C, it feels different. Right? It feels different. Something's a little bit different. And you have there's that slight bit of extra expectation on you, not just from your own roster, from your own locker room, but from everybody else. The media, from the fans, from whoever it might be. And I feel like Clayton Keller has lived up to that. I feel like he's met those expectations and continues to be the best player on this team. He's always finding a way to score points, whether it is those apples, those helpers, or getting goals himself. I mean, he seems like, again, there might be a game where he doesn't get anything, but most of the time, he's getting something.
So I think that's strong. You can never go wrong when you talk about the captain, right? Or at least you shouldn't be able to go wrong when you talk about the captain. And that's a good sign that you picked the right leader. If we do mention the captain and it's not going well, okay.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's where we're at. And Robin, I think that that's important to mention, because at this point for this Utah Hockey Club, I mean, a couple of things they can always use more of. They can always use more awareness and intelligence. Hockey IQ is a good way to put that one on. So can always use more of that. I think they can always use more help defensively. And I think, honestly, they can always use more voices in the room, more veteran voices in the room, because they're such a young team. So I think that, Keller checks some of those boxes, and maybe not all of them every single night, but no player does right now. And I think that that's important for them. I think that they need the leadership, and they can get it from him. And I think that, the production is expected, but also in a way it's a bonus because that's not what we're actually talking about to start this off. We are talking about, being in a spot where you need someone to just go out there every single day and not so much put the team on his back, but show everybody, hey, this is what it's going to take to win. This is how we're going to get there, and we're going to fulfill the Bill Armstrong gamble on all of us by doing X, Y, and Z, and that's what they need to do.
And I feel like that's kind of too. And you can also have a captain who is a lot more vocal in the locker room. I don't know how Keller is in the locker room. I mean, we're not in the locker room, but what we can say is that Clayton Keller is definitely one of those lead by example types of captains. He's not just gonna, yell at the players or just try to be the locker room spirit, but he's out there and showing, and as you mentioned, is kind of giving the example. This is what we need from the team. This is the level of competitiveness. This is the level of skill, the level of play that should be expected from this team day in and day out.
And that is exactly what they need. They just absolutely need to always make sure that level is high. The compete is high. The motor is high. Whatever cliche you want to throw in there, it's just always got to be high. And especially when you're a team that, let's face it, is not getting by purely on talent. You need hard work as one of the factors as to why you're winning.
Hard work as well as this confidence, right? You need someone who's been around, good teams, bad teams, mediocre teams, kind of. And that kind of just understands it all, and is also patient too, because there's last thing we'd want is a captain who's a little short fused and all of a sudden, says something pretty bad to the media, and now the rest of the team is, throws the rest of the team under the bus for whatever reason.
And you can't have that and be successful. You just can't. That is not. Utah's a young team and they're building, and if they're going to grow, they're going to do it through coming together, not through dividing themselves. So I agree with that one. All right, I have another one for you. You ready for a curveball?
All right, let's hear it.
So taking a look at the defense, I think that this player has stepped into the void and has done incredible things. And I am talking actually about Olli Maatta. I think Olli's acquisition has been nothing short of phenomenal. So the stats don't blow you away. This year in 22 games, 2 assists, +5. Tom, those are snoozers. I get it. And by the way, those 2 assists have come in the last 3 games. So here's the thing. This was a trade that brought in a guy, now, by the way, Stanley Cup winner with Pittsburgh. Started the year with Detroit, 7 games, nothing, zeros, 15 minutes of ice time, and it represented a steady decrease of ice time every year for the last 3 years for Maatta since arriving in Detroit. Clearly, they were over him. Only had 3 shots in 7 games. Didn't look good. Now he's only got 7 and 15 with Utah, but he's played 15 games with Utah now. And what's important to note is so far with Utah, Olli Maatta has not had this much time on ice, first of all, ever on average in his career. The only other time he's averaging 20 minutes, 53 seconds through the first 15 games. The only other time he has come anywhere close to that TOI was 14-15, a decade ago with the Penguins, 2043. It has never cracked 20 minutes since. Come close, 1958, high 18s for a couple of years there. But on those cup-winning Penguins clubs, did have some offense at the time, but it was more for the defense. And that, I think, is what Maatta is doing, is providing that anchor, taking pressure off of Sergachev, which needed to happen, but also providing those hard minutes, the penalty killing, the defensive zone starts, all the things that you need. Your whoever your minute muncher is on defense, and it took some of that too off of the other guys on the defense for Utah Hockey Club because, for instance, Ian Cole used to be that player, but
Yep.
Ian Cole is not someone who is able to do that on a regular basis now. Same thing with Bortuzzo, but Bortuzzo used to be that guy, but can't do it at 20 minutes a night, can do it at 15. So this has been a low-key, under the radar, important acquisition, and will never see the light of day in an MVP talk. So that's why I'm bringing it up.
I like that you mentioned it too, because and I feel like it is, certainly underappreciated, especially given the blue line situation that's currently happening in Utah, where it's pretty broken, as I mentioned in the previous episode, and not afraid to continue to bring that up until obviously we see until this blue line gets healthy, so to speak. And then I think too, you got to mention that Olimata has came. I think because he was signed almost immediately after the collapse of the Sharks, which I think was like the lowest of the low. For that team, it's like once that happened, I feel like they're like, all right, we need something different. They bring in
those
Olimata,
poor Sharks,
and you bring him in, and it looks different. Like, oh, I think this. I think this works. I think this is a little bit of the slight change of pace we needed. Is the team significantly better? No, but they were able to get shored up and not feel like they're bleeding as much as the loss in that game prior.
That's fair. That's fair assessment. I think I can absolutely see that. So that's my case, and I know it's not something that would cross most fans' minds, but that's why I wanted to make that case. So, all right, give me one more. I know we're running out of time here, but you have another one?
I don't have any other ones right now. So
okay. So I like your pick. We got the captain in there. We actually went one from each position, so I like it. All right, nice, well-rounded discussion there.
Yeah, and I feel like we can revisit this conversation maybe end of February, figure out maybe what's changed. I feel like it could be a little fun point.
Well, and it will change, and that's the beauty of it.
Sure.
Plus, this is comment fodder right now. Again, I mean, this is a pretty interactive episode. I want to hear from people.
Oh yeah, who do you think should be considered for MVP right now? Who is your MVP at this point in the season for the Utah Hockey Club? I want to definitely want to hear from you guys, and either send us a comment on the YouTube channel, on the YouTube video when you guys are watching on this, or just tweet at us on or mention us or whatever on either Twitter, X which is supposed to be called now, or on Blue Sky, on either one of those, and let us know what you guys think.
I'm still maintaining a check it on X if you want to reach out to me at Callahan on air, but for the most part I am on Blue Sky. So, and I'm Tom Talks over there. So hope you'll join me over there.
I am starting just to migrate a little bit more over to Blue Sky now. I feel like because I spent so much time on X and on Twitter, I feel like it's just hard to just make that jump. Change is hard for me, guys.
What?
It takes a little bit of processing to go through all these changes, but I'm starting to make the migration on over to Blue Sky, because I feel like, as you mentioned, Tom, about all of hockey Twitter is making the move over there.
More and more every day. I mean, millions of people are signing up right now, but there is a pretty strong hockey presence on there. And I just feel like a lot of people are bouncing over there. So I'm just trying to get over there early and get my little Tom Talks handle going. And yeah, it's been fun. I've been, I don't want to call it live tweeting the games, because it's not really what I'm doing, but I am throwing my 2 cents worth in every couple of minutes. And yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, so you can certainly check us out over there. If you'd like to hear it on this episode, though, don't forget to leave us a review, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your shows, including on YouTube. Hit the notification bell if you do, so you can get notified every single time a new episode drops. As we mentioned, we're on social media. You can mention us, you can tweet at us, direct message us, you can do us, and you can just talk with us. We'll reply back, or we'll also answer on a future episode of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm personally at Robin_Leonio on X, at Robin Ice Time on Blue Sky. The show is at LO_NHL Utah on X, and Locked On Utah Hockey on Blue Sky. And Tom, once again,
at Callahan on Air on Twitter, and then I am at Tom Talks on Blue Sky.
Yeah, so we'll be maintaining a presence on both of those for now until we fully on over to Blue Sky. But yeah, once again, feel free to give us a follow and message us if you guys, or just talk with us in general. We'll reply back. Once again, though, thanks everyone for listening to this episode, and we'll see you guys next time.